boy, have we got our work cut out for us with this thing. All right, so before I go any further and give you the status report and tell you the direction going forward, first thing I have to make clear is that Jeff is aware of all of this stuff, and he's still gung-ho, let's do this thing, whatever it takes. So it's going to continue forward. And then the second thing I have to do before I show you anything is I have to read you directly from the auction listing for this car from May of this year. So June, July, August, 5 months ago. So this is 5 months ago. And it went directly from there into Jeff's hands. So there's nobody in the middle. So this is how this car was listed. This is how it was advertised. Okay. Highlights. UDRA national champion driven by Ron Colson. Yes. Built in 1968 for the Peterson-Colson team. Yes. Featured in Drag Racing Magazine, June 1969. I actually happen to have that issue. All right, now, here's where, pay attention to this, okay? Restored to run in period correct form. So in other words, this thing has been restored to run as a 1968 Top Fuel car. All right, now keep this in mind now, because as we go forward, all right, supercharged 392 cubic inch Hemi V8. Really? Okay. White exterior, black interior, roll cage, sold with blah, 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 Atwood trailer. Okay. So here are the key points that you need to take away from this now, right? Restored to run in period correct form. And also, this car was cackled. I have seen all of the pictures now. I've seen all of the construction pictures. And what I'm showing you here is how this car was actually put together. Because like I said, I've gone back now and I've looked carefully at the pictures, and these are the parts that were in it when it went to auction. And it was also cackled. And I've seen pictures of this thing at a cackle fest with header flame. So it was actually run on nitro. All of this is important to know before we go any further. So there's a lot here. So let's first start with this. When I went to look at this car over at Jeff's, the first thing I did when I looked at the engine was I tried to get a look at this pad right here. So this pad on all early Hemis, this is where the engine identification number is. And it'll generally start with like NE57, the third and fourth digits of the year. So I was expecting to see 57, 58. That's what I'm looking for, because you're looking under the blower. You can't, it's difficult to see. But there was nothing here. It's completely ground flush. Now, I've also seen the construction pictures of this engine. And in the construction pictures, you can see that this is freshly sanded. So they sanded it and then painted it like a thick epoxy, I guess, and nothing is visible. All right, so then how do we determine what this engine is going by the numbers that are cast into it? Well, we go here to numbers that aren't visible when the engine is together. 1619829. 392 Chrysler? No, 354 Chrysler. It's not a 392, it's a 354. All right, and now is that a deal breaker? Well, the car was advertised as having a 392. It's a 354. I actually happen to be familiar with the smaller cubic inch nostalgia Top Fuel size. And I have no problems working with a 354. I think the 354 is an excellent engine. But that's not the point. The point is it was supposed to be a 392, and they conveniently eliminated some numbers so that you couldn't see what it was. All right, but that's not where it stops with this particular block. So taking measurements, we find it, the engine is bored 85 over. Okay, so the maximum recommended overbore for this block from Chrysler is 40 thousandths. You could push it to 60 thousandths, not on nitro. This is actually bored 85 thousandths over. So it means cylinder walls are paper thin. All right, so how did they compensate for this? Concrete. The block is filled with concrete. Some of it is pretty crumbly. All right, so this is the condition of the concrete that's in the engine. Now, will that concrete keep the cylinder walls from blowing out? Yes, it'll keep the walls from cracking vertically, but it won't keep them from cracking horizontally. Now remember, this is a nitro motor. The head bolts are only secured by the deck, okay? So in other words, like on a ladle, like an aluminum engine, the head bolts would extend all the way down and screw into the spine of the block. But on an iron motor, the head bolts screw into the deck. And the deck is only supported by the cylinder walls. So the concrete will keep it from blowing out this way, but nothing to keep it from separating this way, or becoming loose enough to start moving around and push out head gaskets. So this block at this size filled with concrete, no. But again, at the end of this, I'll tell you, I'll give you the rundown on the direction we're gonna go and how things are gonna work moving forward. All right, so we've got a 354 that's overboard way beyond and filled with concrete. Looking at the rest of it though, the crank appears to be in nice shape. I haven't measured anything yet. I did pull one piston and rod assembly. It's got new old stock Howard's rods that appear to have never been run. At least this one here is virgin, and what I can see from looking up underneath, the rest of them are the same. We've got Arius pistons that are in nice shape. We've got fresh rings, all that's good. So they spent the money on good pistons and good rods, good rings. And as we showed in that last video we did, all new hardware. Now, every single fastener on this engine was either just loose or just like finger tight, okay? And how they cackled this thing, I don't know, but they did. So everything was finger tight except the bottom end. The bottom end, the rods are torqued correctly, the main caps are, so everything I checked downstairs seems to be good. But we'll have a better idea. I'm still going to pull the rest of the pistons and rods out and look the crank over. It looks okay. Everything looks okay down there. But here are the cylinder heads. Now don't ask me how this stuff got so filthy, and I mean filthy, in the space of time that it supposedly, well, it didn't supposedly, it actually did run, but everything is just a greasy, filthy mess up here, right? This is the way I pulled this thing apart, exactly like this. Cylinder heads look good, no cracks, no obvious damage. It's been fitted with bigger valves. Everything here looks okay except for the filth and O-rings. So I'll show you on this head here. I don't know if the grooves weren't cut correctly or deeply enough, or the wire isn't compatible, but when I popped this head off, this O-ring just fell out of the cylinder head. And we've got another one here. Where is it? Oh, there's another one here someplace. I tucked it in. But here, this, you can see this head gasket equally filthy. Okay, and lots of rust in the head. So I dropped the head down here, and you see the rust that fell out of it. We got more rust over there. The top side of the cylinder heads are just filthy, just absolutely filthy. What are you going to do? Now, those will get cleaned up, and I got to figure out what's going on with the O-rings. Now, this is interesting, okay? So the first thing we notice when we look at the rockers is that it's using head bolts, and these should have been replaced with studs. You don't use head bolts on a blow nitro motor, you always use the studs. But that's okay, that's just a simple substitution. We have, these are factory, marine, and industrial rockers. The intakes are fine, okay? We can get away with these intakes, they'll run forever. But a nitro motor is extremely sensitive to the exhaust side. And if we actually put any load to this thing, these rockers stand no chance, the exhaust rockers. For right now, for what we're going to do to get started, these will do the job. But wait, there's more. This is probably my favorite thing out of everything I've found so far on this engine. So Chrysler, from the factory, put holes at the end of this rocker, both sides. Now, this is a normal thing, okay? And the reason they did that was so that you could put a cotter pin through there and you can assemble the rocker shafts without them flopping all over the place and being cattywampus. So you take this stand with its cotter pins, you lay it down, you put the shafts in it, and then you start assembling rockers and springs and other stands and so on and so forth. But that's why these holes are here, okay? I want you to see what's in these holes. Old rusty nails. Old rusty nails. Not even secured. Just dropped in place. Just like that. Both sides. Both sides. Okay, so I can understand not putting, you're going to assemble these rockers and you're not going to bother with, pins, okay? Cotter pins or anything like that. And all you have is some nails. So you drop the nails in. This is, okay, so you drop the nails in and you do your assembly. Why wouldn't you take them out? Why wouldn't you take them out? So right now, as this thing stands, as this engine sits, it was running and intended to run, restored to run in period correct form with 4 rusty nails. There's 2 on the other side, with 4 rusty old nails just freely hanging around inside the valve covers. So let's just say you've got your stock regular street engine, and it says, hey man, before you start driving this thing, let me throw these 4 rusty nails in there. What would you say? Okay, so this engine was assembled and run and sent off to run in period correct form with rusty nails still sitting in the rocker shafts. This is why you have to check everything. If it comes through an auction, you've got to, we just did this video, right? But I have to repeat it anyway. If it comes through an auction, it means it was just slammed together. So what we have here is a perfect example of that. Everything outside the motor is beautiful. It's like jewelry. It's perfect. All new fasteners. It all looks like it just came out of the package. It's museum worthy. Take the valve covers off. You've got filthy, rusty cylinder heads, filthy, rusty old rockers. You've got loose nails just hanging out, okay? I could go on and on, right? But you get the general idea. No, yeah, restored to run in period correct form. So now, I'm going to show you the best part of this whole thing. I'm going to show you the best part of this whole thing. Now remember, none of this has been touched. Jeff bought it, brought it to me, and this is the first time things are being gone over. This is great. Okay, so they put a ground wire on the magneto to shut this thing off. This is how you shut. Now you kill a magneto, you ground it right there, okay? So that's how they intend to shut it off. And here's a switch that they mounted on the steering wheel to ground the mag. Okay, and here's the wires. Nice wire, right? Okay, look at this, nice and secured all along here. Nice and secured right there. And then look at this. Can you guys see this? The wire is wedged. No insulation, no nothing. The wire is wedged between the motor plate and the frame rail. And then runs up to the mag. Okay. They ran this thing on nitro like that. So with it vibrating around and shaking and doing all of the stuff that a nitro engine does, just even at a cackle fest, they have a bare wire, or not a bare wire, just a plain wire, plain insulation, wedged between the motor plate and the frame rail. So what would happen if this thing is sitting there, they took a whoop with my whop, right? They want to do that. Well, what would happen if during one of those whops, the wire, the insulation scraped through and the mag grounded itself against the motor plate, right? You would have had this thing cycling with no ignition and then suddenly ignition again. What happens? What do you think is going to happen? Am I getting a little agitated? Yes, I probably am. I need to take it down a couple of notches. This is the kind of stuff that you find, all right? And this is why people, when we were talking about doing this project, people were like, oh, just fire it up. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. No, see, it's little stuff like this, details like this that you have to look at every friggin' thing. So we got a work cut out for us. We got a work cut out for us. The car itself is beautiful. The car itself, the chassis and its gear, it's all beautiful. But mechanically, like from blower pulley to clutch can, this thing is a mess. Show you one other thing that I found that I puzzled over a little bit. Okay. So at first I thought this is shoddy, okay? So you see the bracket right here, welded to the frame, and then these are the factory motor mount ears. And I noticed that there's a big space here and a big space there. So I'm like, well, okay, well, why was this? Now, they didn't do this. This is part of the original construction of the car. Now, if you guys aren't familiar, just about everything built in the last 50 years has used aluminum motor plates that'll mount from here and then come down to the frame rail, and then there'll be a hose clamp. You have a saddle and then a hose clamp to just hold the saddle against the frame rail. And that's because all of the twisting force is taken by the motor plate. So the saddle, all the saddle has to do is just sit here and hold up the front of the engine. It's really not under any sort of stress. But this one was built with these. And I was like, okay, this is, by the way, this is all gas welded together. That's all gas welded chromoly. All right, so I was like, well, what do we do with this? And then I realized they left those gaps there because as the frame moves around, as the frame twists and bounces, because dragster frames, it's a spring. It's always moving of some sort. They left that bolt loose in the saddle so that no matter how the frame distorted, it wouldn't be pulling on those ears. And if you pull on the ears, forget about breaking the ear, that's not a problem. But when you pull on the ear, you're also pulling on the deck. And that could cause a crack between this head bolt over here. Look how filthy that head bolt is. Look at that. This is restored, okay guys? This is restored to run in period correct form. Because in 1968, they left everything filthy like this, okay? Look at the condition of this deck. So they left this loose, the gap on either side, because you don't want to stress the block. You could break it right here. You could distort the block and push a head gasket out. There's a lot of damage that can be done. So this would actually be left alone. Or we're going to leave it alone. I'm going to put a slightly longer bolt with a nylock on the end of it, just so that it stays tight. But yeah, that's kind of got to float. All right, so that's where we're at. I know there's more. But I'm going to give you guys a more detailed explanation, or I should say, a more detailed description of the relationships of stuff, so bore, stroke, camshaft. I'll give you all of that stuff, and the basic tune that we're going to go with on this in the next installment. For right now, I want to just bring you up to speed on the mechanics of it. So here's where we're at with this. Like I said, I powwowed with Jeff yesterday. He was here for a couple of hours, and like I said, he's totally gung-ho, right? No matter what, we're going to continue ahead with this project. So here's the plan. We're going to clean this block up as best we can, race prep the block, like as if it was in ready to run condition. Okay, so we're going to race prep everything here, clean up everything as best we can. And this block will be fine for initial startups, initial running on nitro, getting the valve set, doing all that. It's good enough to put on the ground and do a couple of burnouts. It's good enough to put on the ground and let Jeff launch it a couple of times to get used to it. But I would not push this block anywhere past, let's say, the 60-foot mark. So all of our initial, experimentation and playing around with it, getting a clutch settings, getting all that stuff, we can do with this block. So once we've accomplished that, once we've got this car where everything is like turnkey and we know what it's going to do every time and we got everything stabilized, okay, and Jeff has made a couple of 60-footers with it, at that point we're going to replace this with either a Donovan or a really pristine 354 block. We'll stay with the 354 or the low deck combination. Because like I said, I do have experience with that. I helped with a combination based on a low deck that was extremely successful. This is back around, this is actually after I got out of drag racing altogether, but I had friends and we would consult back and forth. So I'm very familiar with a combination at this size, and I know how to make it, how to make it work. I know it's going to be fine for what we're going to attempt with this car, but that's where we're at now. We have enough stuff here that's good enough to use for those baby steps, but then once we try to actually send it, we're going to have to change out the block, the exhaust rockers, a few things like that. So the next step, I'll give you guys an idea of the tune-up, all of the various dimensions, and what we're doing with the clutch going forward. Dr. Art still has to pull the rear end apart, so we don't have a status report on that yet, but he'll be here this weekend to get that done. And we got our work cut out for us. We've definitely got our work cut out for us. This is going to be a project. My goal is to at least have this thing make noise before the end of this year. And a lot of that just depends on parts coming in, and we're right now we're hitting the middle of October, so there's a chance we get to make noise with this thing before the end of the year, but we definitely won't be able to get this thing to a track of any sort until probably early spring, and by that point we'll have the good parts ready to put in, so we can just swap everything over once our goals have been met. So that's it. There you go. There's the update. I'm gonna read that one more time, okay? Because I know people are gonna be in the comments like, "What did you expect? It's just a pile of parts." Restored to run in period correct form. That means throw 90% nitro in there, pull a pin and send it. That's what it means. Restored to run in period correct form. All right. I know I have to keep repeating this because some of you people are thick. And then of course, supercharged 392 cubic inch Hemi V8. It's actually 368 cubic inches, but that's besides the point. It's a 354. I'm gonna go ride my motorcycle for a while. It's a beautiful day. I'll see you tomorrow.